Welcome to the Author Spotlight podcast by Morpheus Publishing, an exciting new podcast hosted by Justine Martin, CEO and founder of Morpheus Publishing, a division of Justine Martin Corporation. Justine is an accomplished author, publisher, writing coach, and illustrator. She will guide you through the captivating journey of bringing your words to the world, crafting stories that matter, tales that inspire, and books that make a difference. In each episode, Justine and Morpheus Publishing will spotlight a new author who has published an amazing book in genres such as personal development, self-help, children's picture books, and memoirs. Through the help of Morpheus Publishing, these authors have turned their dreams into reality, and now, you get to hear their stories. Join us on this journey as we explore the world of writing, publishing, and the incredible stories that come to life through the Author Spotlight podcast.
Welcome back, listeners, to Morpheus Publishing's Author Spotlight. And I've got the author with me who has written Observations from a Wheelchair. Penelope, how are you today, Penelope?
I'm good, thank you, Justine. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm absolutely fantastic today. So we're going to jump straight into your book because I absolutely love your book, and it's been a pleasure working with you for the last couple of years writing this. It's been a couple of years, hasn't it?
It has.
All right, here we go. So can you introduce yourself to our listeners? Tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from.
Okay, I live in Townsville, about 20 kilometres north of Townsville, an area called Black River.
Yeah.
I grew up in Melbourne and now I live here. I was diagnosed with MS in 2001, the day before September 11, so it's quite easy to remember that day, exactly when I was diagnosed with it. I kept working for another 13 years after the diagnosis and then retired in 2014 and have spent a bit of time trying to rediscover myself, find something to replace that huge void in my life that was work.
Yep.
And currently I have moved on to becoming a volunteer JP, and something I would not have expected to find myself doing is writing. And
so work for you prior to being an author, you were a nurse, is that correct?
Yes, I was a registered nurse in our intensive care unit here in Townsville in what's now called the Townsville University Hospital. I discovered writing by absolute fluky chance after an encounter with Justine, looking for authors for her book Whispers of Resilience, and here I am.
That's right. Jeez. So that's going back quite a few years ago now, 2023, yes. I believe.
Yes.
Beginning of 2023, we did that project together, and that was 26 authors that all had multiple sclerosis around the country, and you were one of them. And I remember you expressing that you really enjoyed writing your chapter for that, and that you thought you had another book in you, or that you had a book in you. And I'm like, well, okay, let's sit down and talk about that. And there was actually 3 of you in that book that have gone on to become solo published authors, which is just remarkable.
Very
for it. It is very exciting. So what inspired you to write Observations from a Wheelchair?
I think I went from a walking stick to a wheelie walker. And when I was first diagnosed, the thought of moving into a wheelchair was almost incomprehensible. Mm-hmm. It was terrifying. It was probably one of my greatest fears. And now that I've been in the wheelchair, once I've actually found that being in a wheelchair has actually enabled me a bit more than made me feel more disabled. I can go places, I can move, I can get things done in a reasonable amount of time. And
it gave you back independence, didn't you? When the independence was taken away because of the disease,
yes,
then all of a sudden, people would see it differently than that, but it gave you more independence back.
Yes, moving into the wheelchair has definitely given me more independence.
Yeah.
And so when I realised all of that, I thought I'd be interested just to share my thoughts with other people and let them know that moving into a wheelchair for me, it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. And I've been able to throw in a bit of humour
What does the title of the book mean to you personally?
The title of the book means to me is simply a different viewpoint of the world. So sitting in a chair and moving around and having to look up at people, having them look down at you, or if they sit down at your eye level and have a chat, some of the views that you just can't get out of your head of various things like bottoms because they just appear in front of you. A lot of children who are perhaps in strollers or shopping trolleys, and you'll be at the same eye level as those children, and they're looking at you as if to say, "Oh, that's an interesting stroller," and just they have a smile and just communicating like that, just to make people more aware of the width of doorways, just being able to move around, and in shops. I was in a shop yesterday where I actually purchased something, and I said to the salesman, I said, you'd probably get a few more people in here if it wasn't this crowded. And his immediate reaction was, we can't get a bigger store. And I wasn't going to go into a discussion, well, maybe you could rearrange it a bit. That wasn't my plan, my position, but it just could have been so much easier if you just rearranged things a bit better.
Yeah.
So
and people don't realise until they're in a chair the obstacles that are put in front of them. So this book has some comical stories and that highlights those areas of frustration as a wheelchair user.
One of the things I've discovered too is footpaths aren't flat.
No. Neither are shopping centres.
Yeah, not only going up and down, but footpaths lean from side to side, usually towards the road. I assume they're designed something like that to drain water off, but that can be quite challenging in a chair too. I didn't notice in the wheelie walker, but I've definitely become more aware of it in the using the wheelchair. So yes, I simply wanted to bring to light, show other people the different perspective of using a chair.
Yeah. And, shopping centres aren't flat either. My shopping centre where I am has actually got quite a few good hills on marbled floor, and you really have to watch yourself while you're wheeling yourself on those. So your book is based on personal experiences. Was it difficult or was it cathartic to put those into words?
It was a bit of both. The chapter about Anne-Marie Smith, the lady in Adelaide who died from neglect, I found that quite difficult to write because it's something that could happen to anybody.
Mm.
But then telling stories about anxiety and mindfulness, that I found cathartic. I enjoyed creating stories about the cassowary and the other creature that you have to guess what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to just get a little bit creative and sit down and really think about what's around, like the environment that's around you. And yes, and you can do those things whether you're in a wheelchair or not. So it was cathartic from the point of view of just making me a bit more aware as well. So and realising that, as I say at the beginning, I'm lucky in that I had time to get used to the idea. It wasn't one day I was out of a wheelchair and then the next day I was in a wheelchair. So I had time to grieve my loss of mobility and just become a little bit happier or more comfortable with the idea and acknowledge the advantages of using the wheelchair rather than the wheelie walker.
Have you ever thought about writing your own book? Join the Morpheus Publishing Writing Group program and turn your dream into reality. Contact Morpheus Publishing today and start your journey to becoming a published author.
What message or takeaway do you hope the readers will gain from it?
I hope the readers will still be respectful of people in wheelchairs and just try and think about things from other people's perspectives, I suppose. So going through a door, somebody just holding a heavy door open I really appreciate. Don't really appreciate somebody stepping out of a lift and saying, "Oh, sorry." So when they see you and that's their reaction, and you think, why are you feeling sorry for me because I'm in a wheelchair? It's the trying to balance the people who want to help and the people who maybe it's related to the old thing about if you're in a wheelchair, you're considered less a person, you're considered there's so much you can't do, but there is so much you can do.
That's
and to be a little bit
You're
more
not a lesser person. You're not a lesser person just because your legs don't work
No, you do need to grieve about the loss of your mobility. That's an important part of healing.
It definitely is.
Yes, but to focus on what you can do rather than what you can't do.
Yeah, that's a good takeaway.
Yeah.
So what was the writing process like for you? Did you follow a routine or write when inspiration struck? Now, I know the answers to this, but
It was while I wrote it, it was basically when inspiration struck. Yes, so when inspiration struck is probably the best way to describe it. With the books I've got coming up, I'm definitely more organised.
So you're writing more books. You've got the writing bug now.
Yes, I have. Yes, God help you, general public. Yes, I do have the writing bug now. But the ones that are coming up are a little bit more organised in that I'm collecting a lot more, doing a bit more research before I start, and a lot of that research has come from other people on wheelchairs.
The next books that are coming up aren't personally about you, so you have to do research, whereas this one you didn't have to do the research.
This one I didn't have. Oh, there was a few. The one with Anne-Marie Smith, I did have to do a bit of research from the press releases, and there's a few things like that. I just needed to the one about the cassowary, I just needed to check a few things about the cassowary. But most of them, or facts that I wasn't 100% sure of, I just check and go from there. So
now, did you face any challenges during the writing stage?
Sometimes just flat out exhaustion and fatigue.
Mental fatigue,
physical, both of them, physical fatigue. That was a challenge. With MS, fatigue is a significant issue with MS. And sometimes I just find it easier just to sit and flick through my phone or do word puzzles rather than actually sitting down and having to
concentrate,
communicate.
Yeah.
So
in saying that, how did working with Morpheus Publishing support your journey as an author?
The Morpheus Inner Circle writing group was just wonderful, and getting ideas, seeing other people sort of feel the same, getting inspiration from some of the things that they said, they've done, and just having that little group feedback and support, and knowing that I could email you almost any time and ask a question. But I'd like to think now the people in the Morpheus I've made a whole group of new friends.
It's a community. It's a whole community in that group, which is
new friends who are happy to communicate, always interested to hear what they've got to say, their perspectives on certain things. We all come from different
walks
directions,
of life.
Yes, walks of life. And so just having a chat and communicating and hearing stories and encouraging them and they encouraging me is a very special community.
It is a very special community. Do you think you would have actually published a book if it wasn't for going to that writing group?
I don't think I would have. I don't think I would have. I wouldn't have had that encouragement, that constructive feedback, being able to chat to people about what they're doing. So, I really don't believe I would have published a book without that support of the Morpheus Inner Circle writing group.
That makes me very happy.
There's some very special people there
as
well. And, very, very special people there. So,
there's three of you that have been through it for the last 2 years as well, and you've all published books now. So I'm going to pat myself on the back for that.
Very much so.
To get you over the line. So I've got here a copy of your book, and I'm going to show, for those that are listening on the podcast, you'll be able to pop over onto the vlogcast and actually see it, or follow Morpheus Publishing on social media and you'll see it as well. But it's a beautiful book cover, this one. It's got Penelope pushing her wheelchair in the rain. And I was standing behind her and actually took the photo, and then a lovely picture of Penelope when her and I were actually at a luncheon together 2 years ago. So
when we were talking about whispers. So
that's right.
I'm telling people that the front cover of the book is my back, and the back cover of the book has my front.
That's right.
And with the photo originally, I was thinking, shouldn't we set it, the front cover photo? Shouldn't we set it up? And you said, no, let's make it authentic. It needs to be really authentic. And I'm really pleased that that's the way it's come out.
Yeah,
Yes.
I am too. I just love the cover on that book.
Yes.
It's what it's like being in a wheelchair, because, as you know, Penelope, I sometimes use a wheelchair
Yes.
as well. How important is representation of disability in literature for you?
For me personally, I read a lot and I read a lot of varied things. I think the representation of disabilities in literature generally is really important.
Yeah.
Because it just makes people more aware of just little things, bits and pieces that people might do without realising. Or it's almost like, I want to say advertising, but it's not so much advertising, it's just raising awareness that people in wheelchairs, for instance, aren't 3-year-olds. I mean, there are a few 3-year-olds in wheelchairs, but when somebody comes along and leans down, pats me on the head or puts their arm around me, and there's somebody I've never met before, and I've got very good at practicing the evil lie. Or just
they yell at you. They yell at you thinking that you're deaf, and it's like, my legs don't work, my ears work fine.
Yes.
So
or
totally
people asking you things wouldn't happen in a general conversation, and asking you what's wrong with you, and I'm usually quite happy if it's part of the conversation. I'm quite happy to say, oh yes, I've got MS and this is my experience. But when somebody you don't know, or you just happen to be passing, oh my dear, what's happened? Really, I don't know who you are. I appreciate your kindness, but just maybe you should sort out your privacy settings a bit.
Yes,
and
that's right. So do you see this book as a form of advocacy maybe for people in chairs to make it a little bit more aware? Because, I mean, you do go into, in depth in the stories on some encounters that you've had and the rights of people with disabilities.
I do believe that it is an advocacy. I am being an advocate there. Things like being in a doctor's surgery, not my usual doctor's, and the desk was very high and we're in a queue, and the receptionist didn't look around her computer to see who was next in line, but she said to the person behind me, next. And I'm going, hello? And the lady behind me was very good, said, I think this lady's next. And so I wheeled up to the desk and she's standing leaning over me. And that's what it was like. And she's saying, next time, just pat the top of the workbench. And I'm going, no, if I did that anyway, that would be considered incredibly rude.
That's right.
All you need to do is just look around your screen.
More observant.
That's all you have to do. And I bet that if I had gone up to her desk and started tapping it, she would have gone, you don't have to be that rude.
Are you loving the podcast so far? Imagine the possibilities if you had Justine Martin guiding you through your writing journey. Whether you're crafting your next big book or perfecting a personal project, Justine's expertise can elevate your work. Don't miss out on the chance to work with a seasoned pro, ready to take your writing to the next level. Message us today and let's make your writing dreams come true.
Penelope, how has writing observations from a wheelchair changed you?
It's helped me accept that I am in a wheelchair, and rather than do the, oh, woe is me, I'm in a wheelchair. Okay, I'm in a wheelchair. How can we do whatever we've got to do? Whether it be, at the moment I have a little bit of an issue with bringing my garbage bins in. So the people or the support workers who usually bring them in, they've had to change a few shifts and things. So it might seem so normal to anybody else, but it's really difficult to have a wheelie bin and wheel a wheelchair at the same time. That's a bit challenging, but actually it's impossible. It's beyond challenging. So, but we have worked out a few options around that.
Yep.
So I like having the challenges. I like solving the problems. And
you like writing.
And I like writing. And I've discovered that I have liked writing. It gives me time to myself. I've got a goal. I've got a purpose. Whereas my goal and purpose in the past was to go to work and do my job. And now I've got a purpose And that goal at the end is a finished book, is a finished story, and communicating with people. As I was just talking about before, I really believe that continuing to write improves my writing. So even reading through, rather than just randomly reading certain chapters, reading through the chapters, the early chapters, there's a significant difference between the early chapters and the final chapters, in that the final chapters, I feel I've written them, they're much better to read.
That's also good to read. It's the whole book is fantastic.
I just feel I can see the difference, and I hope other people can see the difference as well.
They will now, because you've just told them. Okay, moving right along. So what are your hopes for observations from a wheelchair over the next year?
That people will read it, that they will read the whole thing, whether they do it random chapters, because it is a collection of short stories.
So it doesn't have to be read in order. No,
it doesn't have to be read in order, but it will perhaps make people think a little bit that finding yourself in a wheelchair. No, it is sad, and you do have to grieve and all of those sorts of things. Life could be a lot worse.
Yes, that's right.
You might not be able to be in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Life could be a hell of a lot worse.
So what advice would you give to someone with a disability who wants to write their own story?
I would say have a go. And I would suggest just sitting in front of the computer with a blank screen and just writing whatever comes into your head, and then you can sort it out a bit later on. Just putting down words.
Joining Morpheus Inner Circle Writing Group.
And that's how they learn to do it. So, yes. So joining a group such as Morpheus Inner Circle Writing Group and seeing what other people are doing. There's people who've written poems, there's memoirs, there's domestic violence advocacy. There's all sorts of things in there that people have written, and I can say quite proudly, I know those people. I know the background stories. And so Morpheus is like a big, comfy chair, and it's there to support you. Whereas if you start by just putting your words down, they don't have to make sense. But just by putting the words down, even if you've got somebody, you can't use a computer, and you've got somebody who can help you with it, just put random words down and then sort it out after you've had some contact with other authors.
Yeah.
Especially the
Morpheus writing coaches.
Or writing coaches. The people in the Morpheus group have been very supportive, and I now consider many of them friends. And even people who've actually moved on, we're still in contact.
Yes.
And
we've finished their books and
and just still keeping in contact is lovely.
That's fantastic.
Very inspirational people.
Is there anything else that you want to share today, Penelope?
Not really, no. I'm fine, thank you.
That's good. Just checking before we end up. Now, your book is available on Amazon and all major booksellers online. It's also available through Morpheus Publishing, and you have your own author page on there as well that you can read a little bit more about Penelope. So thank you for joining us today for Morpheus Publishing's Author Spotlight.
Thank you, Justine, for having me.
You're welcome. And remember, if you want to write your own book, please get in contact with us and we can help you on that publishing journey.
It's well worth it. Definitely well worth it. And the feeling of having done it is, I'm going to say, a bit like winning the lotto, but it's not that. It's just that really positive, I've done something.
That's right.
Something will be here.
Forever, because a copy of it goes to the National Archives in Canberra at the library there. So future generations will be able to read. And again, a book like yours, Penelope, as what we said with Whispers of Resilience, will become history books one day when they find a cure for MS. So when we don't have to use mobility devices. So once again, thanks for joining us today. And listeners, get in touch if you know someone that wants to write a book or have that book published if you've written one.
Thank you, Justine.
See you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Author Spotlight podcast by Morpheus Publishing. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found inspiration for your own writing journey. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to our podcast for more exciting content and author insights. Stay connected with us on social media at Morpheus Publishing and visit our website at www.morpheuspublishing.com.au to discover how we can help you bring your book dreams to life. Remember, don't wait. Take the first step now and turn your dreams into reality. See you next time.